you're going to struggle as you climb higher. Just because you're struggling does not mean that you're failing. So I think a lot of people get stuck in the process of transition because transitioning is usually a state of indecision. There could be some fuzziness and some chaos trying to figure out what your next steps are and what direction to go in. And it's really important during this time to allow yourself the space to connect with God, to make clear and wise decisions. Because what I've found out is when you start opening up to people about any type of issues that might be happening as far as transitioning from one place to the next, a different job, trying to make some different changes, you're going to get a lot of perspectives. You're going to get a lot of opinions. And people who have not climbed to higher levels will give you advice and opinions based on what they have done, what they know works. And it might be this exact thing, the exact recipe that has kept them in a lower area or making a certain amount. And I'm not talking about like being better than other people. What I'm talking about is if you're going to build a business, right, it's going to take money, resources, discipline, time, energy. And when you scale it, it's going to take a lot more of that, because when a lot is given to you or a lot is entrusted to you, or you take on a big project, it requires a lot. It requires rest, focus, discipline, wisdom. It requires proper nourishment. It requires these things. And there's a chance that that business could fail or get pushed down. Maybe you scaled too fast. And if it gets pushed down, or you stumble, or you fail as you're climbing, people who have never built that type of business are going to look and say, well, maybe you needed to be humbled, or maybe this is God's way of saying you shouldn't go after too much. And these are things that I have frequently heard because I've stretched myself so much in so many different ways. So just because you're in a season that looks different for the time being, it might be that God's refining another part of you. So maybe you did all you could do in one area. It's like a muscle. Maybe you're working just the front of the bicep, and you're not realizing to get that chiseled look, you need to work the tricep and, all of these other areas, even the bicep, other areas of that muscle. And you might need to do different workouts to get that sculpted look. Same thing in life. You're going to have to experience different things, and you're going to have to be willing to pull back in some areas to then go forward in other areas. So what looks like a pause or a failure or a step back might actually be the exact thing that you need to get propelled forward. And it's going to look different in each season, because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, it will build consistency and discipline. But you do get to the point where you've kind of maxed out that growth at that time, or at that space, or at that level that you're at. And you have to shift to something else to be able to grow in another area, or to be able to learn something new. So that's basically where I've been. My previous video, a lot of you have reached out, especially on Instagram, and some family members who follow. And I wasn't looking for sympathy or anything. I was just basically stating that there are dips. There are dips as you go up. And when you're reaching higher levels, there's turbulence. There's always going to be a type of turbulence. There's always going to be a challenge. I will say though, they get easier in some areas, and the other areas, if it's not easy, it's mainly because you haven't raised your levels yet. Like, you haven't come up to that point yet. Maybe you need to grow in an area to then, get to that specific level. So it's all part of the process. The key thing I want to remind you is, don't take the time that you need, but don't give up. Don't stop, because when you stop, you have to start all over again. It's like you're building that momentum. Once you have some momentum, it becomes easier because you're riding on that momentum. But if you stop and you turn back into your old ways, now you've got momentum going against you. Now you're doing things that are actually making it harder, and then you got to dig yourself out of that kind of hole, or dig yourself out of that. So keep the focus on the goal. Learn what the things in your life are I don't want to say triggering, but the things that are causing you to stumble, and try to pause on those and remove those. This is why I talked a lot about if TV is super distracting to you, if certain friends, if it's distracting to you, just pause on those things for a while to then gain some clarity, and be willing to change your habits, your day-to-day. Be willing to do things a little bit different. even when you're starting to do things different, it's going to feel uncomfortable because you're not used to those things. You haven't done them before, or it might be out of the normal. Like I had some really strong routines. This was my routine. This is what I was doing, and all of a sudden, it changed. It's like when you have a baby. You get one routine down. You're like, yeah, I just got them eating at a certain schedule and sleeping, and then boom, it's different. You're like, okay, I'm starting all over again. And that process kind of never changes when there is growth and development present. If there's no growth and development present, things don't change. You look at 1 year, oh, it's the same a year ago. Oh, I'm doing the same thing. I'm eating the same way, and I'm doing the same thing. That kind of tells you there's no growth. So I would say every 90 days, 6 months, a year, there should be some type of change. There should be some type of growth. And you can measure that by just saying, well, I'm not doing the same thing. I'm learning something new. And as you're learning something new, you're going to stretch yourself. You're going to stumble on your way up. So I want to develop at my highest level. If somebody gave me flowers and they didn't bloom all the way, I would be a little bit disappointed because I knew they had potential to bloom to their fullest. The rose or the peony to be big, beautiful, bushy. You bought a tree and it grew to its fullest. That brings you joy. Well, that's how God is with us. So if we're not blooming or growing at our fullest, and we're just limiting and we're just stopping because we don't want, there's so many people in the Christian community think it's humbling to stay poor. It's humbling to well, you should only worry about yourself. At least you're okay. Well, you're not making a difference. You're not changing the world. You're not doing anything if you're only taking care of yourself and your own family, because nothing can pour out of you. There's nothing flowing from you. When you have overflow, you're making a difference. You're changing. Things are pouring out of you because you have more to give. So it spills over. The blessings spill over. When the blessings spill over, that's when people can catch it. They're like, oh, give me some of that. Give me some of that favor. Give me some of that blessing. You can make a difference. You can pay somebody's bills. You can send money to an orphanage, or you can take care of the people in the community. You can connect your resources with the needs in the world. But if you're like, well, this is fine for us. This is fine for now. We don't have to go any further because we're fine. There's no, that's not humbleness. That's ridiculous. You're living much lower than your means, and then you're congratulating yourself because of it. That's not pleasing to God. In fact, I believe it's the opposite. If you are okay with a mediocre life and never pushing yourself. I want my kids to obtain everything that they possibly can. And I'm not talking about material things, though money does make life way easier. I don't care what you say. You can't pay your bills without money. It makes things way easier because it gives you choices, and it gives you freedom, and it gives you flexibility, and it buys your time back. So if you're blowing your money at the thrift stores for stuff and that hobby has taken over your life, that's something to look at. I'm just going to say, if a hobby that turns into something that's destructive, that consumes or takes over your life, it's something to look at. And we all have to put ourselves in check, basically, because sometimes there's not always someone there to put you in check. But what I'm saying is that if you are not obtaining everything that you possibly can, you're not going after it, and you're like, well, the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous, but the righteous need to take it by force. Doesn't mean you're violently gonna, do something to rob something, but it means to not be complacent, and it means not be lazy. It means not just take what's served up to you, because that's what the devil wants. He wants you to do, oh yeah, just take it and shut up. Be happy with what you have. Don't want anything more. Oh, well, the Bible says to be satisfied with what you have. Yeah, but it's not being satisfied and wanting to develop and grow are two different things. I'm very grateful for what I have. I am satisfied in the Lord. That doesn't stop me from wanting to grow. And I will never tell my kids that, get what you get and you don't throw a fit. No, you go after what you want, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to grow, and you're going to stretch, and it's going to be frustrating. But I can guarantee you that 9 out of 10 people around you are going to be opposite. They are going to tell you not to. They're going to want you to pull back. They're going to want you to sit down and shut up. They're going to want you to stay humble and meek and don't do all of these things. I will stay humble in the sight of the Lord, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to back down and just get whatever and be like, oh well, this is it, I'm just going with the flow, if it's meant to be, it'll be. No, that's a bunch of crap. You have to be really present and have discernment and wisdom so you can move in the rhythm and the seasons that God has for you. Those seasons might be different. Some, he says, there's a time for war and there's a time for peace. There's a time for reaping. There's a time for sowing. That means that there's specific seasons for everything. You can't go all the time, and you can't be lazy all the time. Though God does hate laziness, he specifically says that, and he says that you're not going to prosper if you're lazy. The hands of the diligent. He says that he will direct your steps. He says that he'll give you the power to get wealth. And he says that everything you put your hands to will prosper. So that means that whatever I'm doing, it's going to prosper. No matter where I am, where I'm living, what I'm doing, it's going to prosper. I'm teaching my kids that. Now, I'd rather align myself up and align them up with what they love doing, right? Because I think there's a better chance of prospering if you're doing what you love than if you're doing what you hate. And then you're frustrated about it because you actually hate doing it. You have to be passionate about it. But the key thing is that I want to give everybody a message is, if you're feeling uninspired, like I have been, don't give up. Keep shifting, let God. Sometimes you're going to go through a time where you're going to pull back. You're listening, right? You're sitting at his feet. You're learning, you're growing, you're changing. You're letting him refine you. You're letting him position you instead of grind. There's a big difference. Sometimes you're grinding your way, you're pushing. There's a time for that. You're in the gym, you're pushing. Sometimes there's positioning yourself to basically have that kind of quantum leap. It's like multiplying instead of adding, right? You're going to get somewhere quicker in a shorter period of time, or you're going to make more progress in a shorter period of time. So now that we're kind of turning towards the end of the first quarter in 2026, and it does feel like time is flying by and things are going super fast. I've been using this time since we moved to really get mental space in order, get the home in order, the new place, transition into what's this next season look like for my family. Because then when you get a proper foundation and you're positioned properly, then you can just go, okay, I'm ready, I'm going all in. And when you go all in, go all in. Like, do it to the fullest. Whatever it is that you're doing, be all in and do it to the fullest. Don't necessarily multitask and trying to accomplish 50 different things at one time. It's better to cut down one tree first than it is to have a bunch of half cut down trees. You need to focus on the task at hand, finish that, get that up and running and working, and then move on to the next thing. This is why I'm not on a bunch of different platforms, because I want to build one, then another, and then another, as opposed to being stretched all over. Now, I know people that like to be on a bunch of platforms, all at once, and they're pretty stressed out because they're trying to keep up with too many things at one time, and all of them are flat. You want one big one, then add, and then add, and then add. And it might seem like it's taking longer, but you're not going to be as stressed in the meantime because you're not trying to handle all of these different things all at once.